Hey everybody out there, it's Alabama Deep and coming back at you. All right, so I wanted to go over a video that people have been asking me about and need a little help a bit about understanding, and that is the waterproofness of their timepiece. Okay, so we are going to go over that and establish that in this video and go over a few different watches. And mainly, I'm going to bring out the big guns today with the biggest uh, and highest rated diver's watch that you can get right now within about $200. Okay, so first I wanted to go over, I did a little quick video showing my Tudor, which is the 1940s to early 50s. And I did a video on it showing how it was when it was waterproofed and submerged. And I have the perfect example with that here today. Here's the Tudor. This is the one that was in that little short video. We're going to do something amazing with this watch, and we're going to do that right now. And it's going to go into this glass of water. It will come out later. But I wanted to show you this watch is, in fact, 100% waterproof. And I kind of like maybe I can show a little bit more of it, but I don't think it's going to work for me because it just, I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in this way. There we go. Now you can see it. It is in the bath. It's going for a little swim after its big dive and presentation in the last video. And we'll go ahead and do time set. There we go. We're going to see it. It is spinning around. It's functioning. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And it's going to stay in this glass of water until we get done. But we're going to move on over, and we're going to now show this jug of water. This is going to have my Rolex Prince date. My Tudor Prince date put into it. And I wanted to show everybody on that can see this video and wondered about it, how water resistant is it? And I honestly don't know the answer to this one, so we're going to do it right now. And we're going to look for any warning signs, like little bubble streams coming up. That is a surefire way to know that your watch is not waterproof. So I have it sitting in here. I may bring it up a little bit if I can, and see if we can keep it established above water. And yep, there we go. It is above water. We can see it right now. Let's come in and let's zoom in on it. And we're looking for any little bubble streams that are coming in out on it. And it may just take a moment to get my camera where it can record everything without being shaky too much about it while we're zoomed in. There we go. So we have it now completely submerged. I don't see any little bubbles or streams or anything coming up on it. That is a good sign. That is telling me that this particular case is waterproof. There's like literally nothing coming up on it. It's ticking away. It's doing what it's supposed to do. 28,800 beats per hour. I'm so proud of that little watch. And that was the one that had the Jinx on it when we were trying to build it. So it is going right now. It is ticking away, doing what it's supposed to do. So we are sitting here, and we now have both submerged. Both are submerged. So waterproofing your case. What is the best way to go about doing that? Well, probably the best way I can think of going through that, whether it's an aftermarket case or a genuine case, is number one, you want to look at your crystal. The crystal on your watch is where I find most of my leaks coming in at. And looking at this watch, and I have my little pointers coming in, usually around the edges here is where you're going to see a lot of your leaks coming through. You want to make sure that crystal is intact, that it doesn't have any large chips in it, that there's no minuscule cracks. You'll have to do that under your optics and take a really good look at it. If it's a sapphire crystal, anything chips, cracks, I would replace it in a heartbeat. Some of these aftermarket cases, they follow the exact same laws and principles as the genuines do. The aftermarket cases, they are made almost identical to that of a replica, 100%. The inside milling may be different because it will not hold a 3135. It was crafted for 2813 or 2824. It was crafted for that. It was not crafted for 3135. So finding feet to hold it in place may become difficult for you, especially if it's for like maybe an NH35. I mean, there's lots of different movements that they're specifically designed for. So yeah, you're going to not be able to necessarily find a way to attach those. You have to find different ways, like I have on some of my builds. So we can tell this one is indeed holding up to the water as it should. And coming over here to the Tudor I put in my video, it's still going. There's no water intrusion in it. It is also holding up, and I'm really not concerned at all on either or. They can stay in there till the cows come home, and they're going to be just fine. I do have some other watches that I would bring up for this, not just Tudor or Rolex, but you're going to have some watches out there that do not have the oyster case. I want to find a very good example, and that is going to be this one. If I can come out a little bit on this for this video, I'm going to show you that we do have cases that are like this. They have screw down backs, but they don't have the screw down crown. Those simply push in against a rubber gasket, and that keeps out water to a certain degree. I personally am now spoiled with oyster cases. I do not like these when it comes to water resistance, because I'm always afraid water is going to get into it. Always afraid. But that is following one of the rules that I have established is after you have checked your crystal and your crystal is fine, the next thing you need to do is you need to check the gaskets on the crown side. Now, coming in on this particular model, we can look over here, if I can get my little hand tweezers over there. You can look in, and around here you're going to see your crown. You want to check actually possibly 3 total gaskets all together. And I do have a breakdown of that for you, and I will show that for you. I have a diagram, and I'm going to show you one of these once I pull it out, and it's just an oyster crown with no stem attached to it. And so I'm going to bring it into the mix, and then I'm going to bring the diagram. So on Rolex, for some of the older ones, they're going to have a double lock. And on these, you have one gasket that's on the inside of the crown that is there. It's that black spacer. That is pressed in. That goes up against the cylinder on the side of the case that it's screwed into. That has a gasket that if you have a vintage Rolex, you want to check that gasket there. That's just one of 2 on the vintage models. The second one is on the tube itself. It's like a donut, shape of a donut, and it's pressed in on the inside of that cylinder. So when you are pushing it into the watch, this thicker piece on this crown goes inside of that gasket, plus the one on the inside pressing up against the lip of the cylinder itself, and creates a double lock. Okay, now you have a triple lock on the more modern Rolexes. Those have a total of 3. And there is a gasket that is attached to the stem that you would need to replace if you have one of those models. And I have a diagram of that I can show you. I have always had it hanging up in my watch room. So if I can get in here to show you, this has the double lock here. And then on the crown itself, it has a triple lock. And that's attached to the stem itself here. It goes in, and it should be on your stem. So that makes it 3 locks. So when the spring goes in and presses in, you've got one gasket here. Then you have your second gasket, which is right here, if you see that. All right. So you have your triple lock system versus your double lock system, which is on the more vintage watches. So always check all of your gaskets on your watch stem, your watch crown, and on the cylinder on the inside of these to ensure there's no water intrusion. The final and last, the very last one you're going to have that you need to be careful of, and I'll see if I can't get it turned around into view. And I find it to be probably the most important one, even though they're all important. But it's the biggest one that I can think of that you can have. And that is, if you come around to your oyster case, and we zoom out and zoom in on this, if we can, it is a bit blurry. Let me see if I can get it a little bit better. There we go. So you can come in on this, and on the very back side, you have your screw-on back. Now, with your screw-on back, there is a gasket there. The gasket on that, I usually use a little bit of silicone that I roll that O gasket in, and then I put it in the indentation on the back of the watch case. So when you put your back on, that has like a little lip on it, it presses in on that gasket, forming a seal against the case and the back of the watch itself, so no water intrusion begins there. So that, I guess, is more my basic of Oyster Case 101 for people. So that's how I ensure I never have water intrusion in on my watches. And the same would be said on any screw-down crown, screw-on back case. They all copied it from Rolex. Hans was the one that came out with that. Hans created that and established that in the very early 20s. And looking at the back, we'll bring out this one. This is my Cami. Of course, I don't think it has a screw-on back now, does it? So we won't use the Cami as an example. Let me find one of mine in my collection that does have the screw-on back that you can go by. So, okay. Suor, which is a very cheap watch, but nonetheless. Suor has a screw-on back, as you can see here. Now, this is a homage to the Daytona, but Suor does not, repeat, does not have a screw-down crown. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. It's just very difficult to wind. Of course, it has its O gasket in there, and it probably has an O gasket up here as well. So it has two, one pressing down in, and then the lip pressing down on that. But you can't screw it down to anything. It's just a mash in. So you better hope and pray it doesn't leak. That's why I don't care for these type of cases that don't have a screw down crown. You can never fully guarantee it's not going to leak. Not like you can on these Oyster cases. These Oyster cases, which are direct copies from Rolex and Tudor, or just Rolex in general, because Rolex makes their cases for Tudor anyway. I think now Tudor is now making all theirs. I think it was 1996 that they started using all their own parts. So Tudor backs, made by Tudor, which established by Rolex and Hans for the more least expensive watches for the more normal person. I guess this video is leaning more towards that because that shows you the higher quality and care they put into their watches and can always guarantee that they will always be waterproof. There are times that you need to make sure your crown are down, screw down tight all the way, or you could run the risk of water intrusion. Now, there are times that if it's not screwed down, that the first O-ring that's established, it's going to catch water from not going in, but that's never a guarantee. Always two gaskets guarantee that on this vintage model. The same way it is for this vintage model as well with this screw down crown. It has two gaskets that guarantee no water entering through the crown. One O-ring gasket on the back that guarantees it will not enter the watch. And these, by the way, are rated for 300 meters. Guaranteed. I've tested the maximum depth I can apply to any of these cases. And so far, I got 300 meters. Anything past that, the watch will stop working or that crystal, sapphire crystal, is going to rupture. Anything past that. So I'm lucky that I never really dived to 300 meters. That's way too far for me. or anyone actually, unless you're like using Trimix or something. The deepest I've ever dove is about 425 feet, the very deepest, and that wasn't that long, maybe a couple minutes, and I had to come up. But that is the deepest I have been, and that was at the Blue Hole. So once again, you got a gasket on the back. You'll have 2 or 3 gaskets on the crown, and always check that crystal to make sure that there is nothing going on with that crystal on the front. And of course, that crystal on the front is very important as well. Of course, you all know to keep an eye out for any type of debris, any type of hairs, anything like that will cause a failure on any of your gasket installations. And I wanted to point out also that a lot of these replica watches that people are buying online, especially, you need to consult somebody that's an amateur in watchmaking or someone that has been in this for a while in watchmaking that can help you make sure that your gaskets are proper, because not all the ones you receive on replicas are good. Most of the time they will be, but they will never fully tighten everything down that needs to be tightened, even on their bracelets. They just put it on there by hand, good enough, which is not good enough. You always want to make sure you have the maximum amount of tightness on the back of your watch cases. And I think a lot of people may be asking me, well, Alabama Deep, what is used to keep the back on your watch cases as tight as possible? Well, I would not use a little rubber ball. Now, we all do have those. I have my rubber ball sitting right there, of course, and that's good for those that are light. Okay, but if I've seen videos of people using a rubber ball opening up the back of an oyster case, that's not right. Those should be extremely tight, and those are done with one of these. I did a video on this a long time ago, and I used this to open and close the backs of my cases. This is made of 34, 36 millimeter, and I've always been able to adjust here, clamp down, and what they'll do on these case back openers, they'll put a lot of pressure on the back of that case. Not too much now, because you can crack that crystal, but put enough pressure on the back of it, and they always turn this cylinder here with the head that's attached here for that size of the case back, and they'll be able to unlock it. And that's exactly what Rolex does. Rolex has the exact same opener. That's how they keep theirs closed. And this one actually got a little stuck in the clamp part of it. There we go. And this is more the older style, and I've still seen these used today. I got this for like literally 40 bucks, I think it was. 40 bucks, 25 bucks. I can't remember, but it was very cheap. And I attached it with an AliExpress miniature vice grip, and that holds this in place for me. But all my watch cases I have here are tightened down with this press, this opener. This is the one that I will use to close all my backs to ensure, number one, not anybody can just open it. But number two, to guarantee I won't have a gasket failure. Because if it's not tight enough, you could indeed have a gasket failure. And coming in on this, we're about to end our video. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. This has been in long enough. And as we can see, looking at this, it's still going along its way. It has not leaked any water at all. Ooh, it's a little wet. And I know it's safe. I've had it in this entire time. It's still running, as you can see. No issues. Now, let's go ahead and let's bring out the two-door. So we're going to bring it out now. And I'm going to set my camera down as it comes up. And I will show you the two-door. And I know it has not had any water intrusion either. Coming into that, we can take a look. running just fine. No water is in it at all. And it will be okay. Very good on that. Now, one thing I do have, and I have never tested it, I have a much, much bigger dive watch. And it's supposedly, it's supposedly 3,000 feet before it'll pop. And I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to give it a shot. And it is a monster. And I don't ever wear it because it is more than 48 millimeters in case. Okay, this is an Invicta Hydro. I was so very happy when I first got it. And it is a screw down crown and a screw on back. And supposedly it is rated for 3,000 feet. And I never have put this for any type of, water testing. None at all. And I wouldn't mind in a video to see how the Invicta Hydro holds up. Okay, and I paid a pretty good penny for this watch. It was over $100, which I probably should not have done. But I want to see how it goes. Because supposedly it also is water resistant to 3,000 feet. It is a copy of a Rolex. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a copy of a Rolex design as well. They put one on the Titanic submarine as it went down. And it's not Alvin because that was an 85, but I know when James Cameron did it for his movies, they put a Rolex. I'm trying to remember the name of it. They put a Rolex on the sub's arm. That was this. And so here we go. We're putting in the Hydro. I want to see, because I'm not sure if this is going to have any bubbles come up or not. So I am watching it. Let's come around and let's see what it does, because I want to know if the Hydro is going to leak. They swear it will not. But I want to see for myself. So I'm coming here. I am looking. I don't see any water coming in yet. I see no bubble stream coming up. Aren't we just kind of lucky with that? Let's turn it around. Let's stop it right here. Let's go in just for a little bit closer of a view. Let's see if there's any water coming out on that. I see no water entering this case either. So the Invicta Hydro. Seems to be passing the test as well. I'll go ahead and pull this up because I would like to see and examine this watch, especially with y'all, to see how the Hydro has held up to even a minute in the water. I want to see. Shake it. Let's come in and let's take a look at it. I'm more interested in the back of it to see if there's any water in there. I didn't see any bubbles, so that tells me there was probably no water intrusion. It's ticking away. I see no water intrusion in it either. And I always kind of liked these Invicta Hydros because it has a real meteorite dial. I found that to be very interesting. I find Invicta interesting altogether, just as long as their movements and good quality, and as long as they're not something that looks like that came out of a Happy Meal box. I like this one. It's huge, absolutely huge. Can you imagine wearing this? Let me go ahead and I'm going to show y'all what this looks like on my wrist. Being a Invicta Hydro, one of the biggest dive watches. It is a chunk of stainless steel. It weighs a ton too. So, ouch, that's a pinch. So that's the Invicta Hydro. You can imagine wearing something that huge. You can beat somebody to death with it. It's 54 millimeters or something like that. Look at the height of it. Good Lord. I have worn it a couple times. I wore it to work one day, and then I wore it to my other job one time. Absolutely huge. But yeah, even the Invicta passes the test. So when it comes straight down to it, and I'm going to make so I can go put this watch up and have y'all follow me around the room. When it comes to the Hydro, it passes the test. I'll put it back in its case in a minute. All of these will pass the test because they're all Oyster cases or facsimiles thereof. These up here are all replicas that I have, that I got. They're just fashion watches. All of these more or less could pass the test. Just check your gaskets. One on the back, and you either have 2 or 3 on your crown. Whether it's a double or a tri-guard. Just check those. And then you'll always have a timepiece that will never have water touch its movement. And really, that's all I have for this video, folks. And hope you learned a little bit about something on that. The silicone, you can look up gasket silicone, and you can get it in a little jar, or you can get it in a little container you can dip into. Most people get the container, so the top you can just mix the, think it's going to be sponges on the top and bottom, and it'll lubricate your gaskets. But always check your gaskets. If you're doing a restoration, always check your gaskets. If you're doing a build, check your gaskets. A little bit of silicone lubrication will help keep it watertight. So you may want to get that. With that, folks, this is Alabama Deep. I'm signing off. I got some other things I need to do today, but we'll come back with another video before the next couple of days. I have a lot to do, and we'll pick up on something a little bit different. And I think I have a winner for the drawing I did on the raffle Rolex giveaway. I'll be giving that out in the next couple of videos to come. So stay tuned. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye for now.